Welcome to War Room Impeachment, Wednesday, January 15th, the year of our Lord, 2020. I'm Raheem Kassam, joined by Jason Miller, here in the historic Breitbart Embassy on Capitol Hill. There's a lot to talk about today. Episode 115?
115.
Of War Room
Busy
Impeachment. Busy morning. Busy night. Busy yesterday. Busy for the next week. We are live at 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. every day this week. You can find us at warroom.org, where there's a listen live link. You can also watch live at americasvoice.news, Salem Broadcasting Network. Check your local listings, and Newsmax TV. And this is the John Fredericks Radio Network for those listening in, I think, Virginia and maybe a little bit in Florida too. Very grateful to John Fredericks and the team for hosting us, and we're grateful to be with you, especially after that depress fest last night. I was just so happy to come back into the studio today and get the levity that exists in the War Room, because let me tell you, last night, it's the first time, Jason, I want to get into this, and we'll be getting into this evening as well, but it's the first time. I know all the debates have been terrible. I know that. I'm aware of that. I've watched them. But it was the first time I genuinely felt sorry for a lot of the people in the audience, and for a lot of the people that have traditionally, in good faith, ticked the Democrat box in recent elections. And I just thought to myself, what are these people doing? You know, the questions were awful, the answers were awful, the fights were awful. I mean, the fights are the best part. The fights were awful. Jason, what say you about last night's? How do we describe? What is the best way to describe last night? I think Snooze Fest is too mild. Struggle Bus is too mild. What was that?
I mean, Raheem, none of these candidates want to actually win the nomination. I mean, if you're Hillary Clinton and you're watching this, or I think I even tweeted out during the debate that the Democratic winner for the debate last night was Mike Bloomberg, because
yes,
he wasn't there with the rest of the struggle bus. But I mean, I guess most of the pundits and the lefties in the media were saying that Elizabeth Warren did the best. But it was just, I mean, Joe Biden looked so out of it. And I know he tried to, once before when he got criticized, he tried to blame the stuttering that he overcame as a youth, and sometimes that's why he gets jammed up on his thoughts. Mm-hmm. He just looked like he was just an old man doddering around.
Yeah, I think there's this tendency, this proclivity for people to jump in defense of Joe Biden and say, don't attack him when he pauses, because that's his stammer or his stutter, right? But that's not true. Those aren't the moments. We're not talking about the moments where he's genuinely stuttering. You can hear the difference. We're talking about the moments where you can tell he doesn't know what he wants to say. You can tell that he doesn't know what he thinks. You can tell that he knows he's about to say something incorrect, but has to say something because he's on the spot, fills time, and then goes back. Remember, and the number of times last night Joe Biden had to correct himself after blurting something out. Look, there's something of a lack of composure about Joe Biden now, and I think you're right. I'm not an ageist by any stretch of the imagination, but there is macular decline going on there. You can tell.
And one of the things too, I mean, let's tie back to why does Joe Biden have problems in this Democratic primary? It's because he's been in office for almost a half century. It's because he's been not just in the front row of every major foreign policy blunder over the past 3 or 4 decades, but he's also been a vote for almost all the times. There was a particular moment when Joe Biden last night was trying to both defend and use his votes, and having been in the Senate during all these moments, but then also say how he would do things a little bit differently. And he couldn't quite get his thoughts together in this answer. Yeah. And he kind of just stammered through it. And I was just waiting. I was like, come on, Joe, you can do it. You can finish your sentence. And he couldn't figure out, do I want to throw down and say, I'm the one who has a half decade of experience? Or am I going to be the one that says, I want to do things differently? Chart my own path. I mean, look, David Axelrod came through and dropped the hammer last night. He just straight out called Joe Biden low energy. And Nia Malika Henderson, who the one thing I like about Nia is
who is that? Just remind people. Who that is.
I'm sorry. This is the CNN, the panelists afterwards. So David Axelrod, obviously former chief strategist for President Obama. Nia Malika Henderson, she's a political commentator for CNN.
I was actually asking for my benefit, by the way. I had no idea.
Okay. A lot of times she fills in for John King doing his show. The guy with the maps who has a show. She jumped in. She just straight up said Joe Biden was terrible. I mean, that was a direct line. And then Chris Cuomo. He jumps in, and this is great. And Chris Cuomo is almost like afterwards he was trying to pump up the Democratic field and give them a little tough love. He said that President Trump is the most fierce campaigner in a generation. I mean, it was pretty remarkable. Van Jones was clubbing.
Said he missed Andrew Yang.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, this was not a good night for Democrats.
Well, we'll get into all of that on this evening's show, the 5 p.m. special, the debate special. We'll play the clips, the best clips. We'll unpack it. You don't need to watch that 2 and a bit hours yourself. Believe me, don't waste your time. If you did waste your time, I'm awfully sorry about it. There's so much else going on that we need to get to. We're going to be hopefully joined by Congressman Matt Gaetz in the second part of the show. But I want to tee up today's I guess ceremonies and procedures that are going to be taking place. Now, last night on the show, Jason, we had live during the show, right after I had asked Steve on air if you would take Bolton for Biden. The answer is yes, right, as a witness in the Senate trial. I asked him, though, would you take Lev Parnas for the whistleblower? And he says yes. And about 10 to 15 minutes later, during the live show, these documents are released. We had no idea that was going to happen. That was pure coincidence, kismet, if you will. But these documents that came out last night, about 58 pages worth, I think, of text messages, WhatsApp chains, handwritten notes, all by this former Rudy Giuliani associate, Lev Parnas, who appears to be just... look, I'll confess to having probably bumped into the guy at the Trump Hotel lobby in the last couple of... probably last year or so. And I can't remember any conversations or anything like that. You bump into hundreds of people there every night. But what did strike me about this whole thing and about what people are saying about Lev Parnas and what's been going on is that this is just somebody who looks like he's been out for clout, right? Out for bigging himself up, making himself look very important, posting pictures of his name tag next to the president's name tag at pay-to-play dinners and things like that, campaign stuff that you can buy your way into. And there's nothing to stop an American citizen doing things like that. It's all perfectly above board. But these documents last night, they showed handwritten notes by Lev Parnas, which say, hey, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, these are the things that I have to do. There appears to be some back and forth about the Maria Ivanovich, the ambassador, and the attitudes towards her and what she was doing and who she was, and some expletives that aren't very nice about her being sent around as well. Having looked at it in the cold light of the morning and having slept on it, there's really not a lot of substance to any of this. Once again, and by the way, all of the documents and everything are on warroom.org. They're not filtered or redacted. We don't do what CNN does and say, hey, we're going to tell you what to think about this. We've just published everything as it was released by the House committee. So you can go and read these things yourself. Don't take my word for it. Don't take Jason Miller's word for it. As we learned on Vox Populi the other day, Jason, the audience out there is actually much more intelligent than we are. They can make up their own minds. But my opinion on this is that this is, once again, more third-party stuff. More circumstantial, nothing direct, no quid pro quo stuff. If the charge was, hey, there are bad people in Washington, D.C. on both sides, guilty. Everyone's guilty, right, Jason?
Yeah, I think there's an important point here because people are waking up this morning. I mean, and look, let's not go and put unnecessary frosting on it. I mean, this is a bad news morning. I mean, this is a morning where every major newspaper, the Morning Joes, the CNNs, are pummeling President Trump. This is not a great morning, even though he has the China deal and some other successes that are coming up here. But the fact of the matter, going back to your point, Raheem, I mean, look, incompetence does not necessarily translate to illegality. And so we have these third-party grifters. We have the Lev Parnases, this Robert Hyde person who I had never even heard of. Till not only had I never heard of him, as if I'm the arbiter of people who've heard of, I had no fewer than a half dozen reporters, major reporters around town who seemingly know everybody, reaching out, have you ever heard of this guy? No one's heard of him. These guys are all trying to demonstrate value. And when we come back after the break, I want to get into what actually stands out, what people should be thinking as they're being bombarded with these headlines.
So you should count yourself lucky that you don't know some of these people. Unfortunately, there are very nasty characters around that lurk in and around the Trump hotel. We'll get into that and more on today's procedures after this short break. War Room Impeachment.
Bannon, Miller, Kassam. War Room Impeachment.
On the John Fredericks Radio Network.
Welcome back to War Room Impeachment, Wednesday, January 15th, 2020. Jason Miller, Raheem Kassam. Stephen K. Bannon is up in New York City on assignment. You could catch him. If you did catch him, you can still catch him. You will be able to catch him on Squawk Box on CNBC. We'll have the clip up if you missed it this morning on the website, so don't worry. We'll have it at warroom.org.
And definitely worth watching. I think Steve's been one of the strongest defenders for President Trump of late, and particularly on this China deal. He makes a very compelling case this morning about how this is Trump being tough on the Chinese. It's a really good interview. I think
You watched it?
I watched it, and I think the CNBC folks, I think their heads were exploding. I think they thought Steve was going to come in and club President Trump, but actually Steve laid a very compelling case, worth watching it. Go to warroom.org. It's good stuff.
We'll get the clips up maybe for this afternoon's show as well. I can't say I watched it. I was doing my stretches, getting ready for the show this morning, doing my yoga. Right, there's so much going on at the moment, Jason. I want to jump into it after the look. Bad people are in Washington D.C. This is what the release last night really effectively shows. Shows they may want to clean up the lobby at the Trump Hotel maybe a little bit and kick some of these bums out once in a while. But there's more to what's going on right now than some handwritten notes on some hotel lobby letterhead by Lev Parnas. Right? What else is going on today, and what's the timings? We have something at 10 a.m. We have a press conference at 10 a.m. by Nancy Pelosi. Announcing the articles being taken over. There was some speculation last night if maybe she would delay this because of the Lev release, but we don't think so.
Yeah, no, Nancy Pelosi is running a very specific strategy today to step all over President Trump's China announcement. That's why I think really what she's trying to do here. So at 10 a.m., she's going to announce the House impeachment managers. Could have easily done it yesterday. They could have done it for a while. Although one interesting thing that I heard that one of the CNN commentators was saying that they talked to a member who's expected to be a part of this team, and the member was saying, have you heard if I'm going to be on it or not? So it sounds like even some of the Democrats don't know, but it sounds like
is that Jerry Nadler?
No, Nadler thinks he's going to be on it.
Right.
Nadler seems to have gotten some kind of indication that he'll be on there. So I think all that means is President Trump is obligated then to make Corey Lewandowski one of his part of his defense team, just to go and throttle Nadler again.
To the people who aren't watching the America's Voice live video stream, by the way, I just made my super awkward face. Jerry Nadler being on the team is super awkward for everyone.
And then at noon, the House debates and will vote on the impeachment manager's resolution. And then at 5 p.m., if there couldn't be any more pomp and fake circumstance going on, Pelosi will hold a ceremony, and then the articles are physically carried and presented to the Senate. Now, I want to go back, Raheem, just for a moment here to
Please.
Unpacking all this news with the Lev Parnas and
Sure.
this, and just kind of this Robert Hyde character, whoever he is. And by the way, Lev Parnas is, it's bad when Lev Parnas's lawyer is out there distancing himself.
Oh, you got to read that.
Yeah, and so there's a Kara Scannell from CNN just tweeted that Lev Parnas's lawyer, Joseph A. Bondi, on Robert Hyde, and here's the quote, "We completely categorically deny that Lev was involved in any activities with Hyde to surveil the ambassador and to try to harm the ambassador. We believe Mr. Hyde's activities to be a reflection of his dubious mental state." And
it's honestly, Jason, knowing what I know, that's not even a heckle. That's actually something that people are very concerned about, having people like that around.
yeah, and this Hyde character tweeted out last night that he was effectively just joking around with Lev Parnas and trying to inflate things. And I mean, there are reports. I mean, he was physically removed from the Trump hotel for being drunk and disorderly and being completely out of his gourd.
We're gonna find out if that was once or more, frankly.
But I think there are a couple important takeaways from this Lev Parnas data dump. Again, people were seeing all these documents and their handwritten notes and text exchanges, and I think the media rushes to try to say, oh, well, this must mean there's something bad there. In the fact of the matter, there's still nothing at all that makes any connection between President Trump and any sort of quid pro quo or any other allegation that Democrats have been throwing out there as part of their nullification project. And really, the only fact witness that really matters in all of this is President Zelensky. And
Look, let's be very clear about something for the audience out there, because it's very easy to lose people in these names that nobody's ever heard of, these places that seem so remote. Let me explain to people. There are real people in Washington D.C. who do real work on both sides of the aisle, quite frankly, and who bust their guts 24/7 to achieve things that they think are the right things to do. Then there's all this peripheral stuff that goes on the outskirts of it, right? And then there's the periphery of the periphery who hang on to the hangers-on, okay? And these characters that are mentioned in these Lev Parnas texts, they're the hangers-on of the hangers-on of the hangers-on. They move in an orbit to make it seem like they have influence. They move in an orbit to make it seem like they have power, and they move in an orbit so that they can claim to know things, i.e. be intelligent or knowledgeable about issues when they have nothing to bring to the equation, when they have nothing to say about any matter, when they have no motivation to be in Washington, D.C., apart from to try and look cool, which, by the way, worst city to try and look cool in, and secondly, to try and line their own pockets. And these are the people that the media is now going to say, oh, look, this is a direct link to this and a direct link to that. Listen, you would have more power. I'm not even joking. If you were talking about one of the bartenders in the Trump hotel lobby, forget one of the people who sits on the couches and leers at all the women that walk by, okay? It's just silliness. And when you look at what this Lev stuff is in the cold light of day, you'll realize Nancy Pelosi has to move now, because this was their big October surprise, right? This was the big thing that they thought, okay, we've had this in the Southern District Court of Manhattan for some time. There's no way they didn't know about this 2-3 months ago, by the way. All these documents, all these text messages, all these WhatsApp things, the Democrats knew about it, and they're choosing to release it now. They chose to release it strategically last night, ahead of their own debate, squashing their own debate partly in the media cycle, which tells you what they think about their candidates as well, right? I mean, you're a comms guy. If you're proud of the people you're putting up there, you don't try and squash that with another story. And this is what we're being sold. This is what you guys call, I believe, a false bill of goods.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this is why we saw Mitch McConnell yesterday come out and throw down and essentially say that there's not any appetite for a dismissal, that we are going to move ahead here. This impeachment trial actually gets going on Tuesday. Senate will address it within the next 24 hours here. Probably see some procedural things. Could see that the senators actually sworn in as jurors this week to go and set up next week. And then Tuesday is when everything kicks off.
Jason, where can we find out more about the War Room?
Warroom.org. We'll have all sorts of stuff up, including Steve's interview on CNBC from this morning on Squawk Box, which was absolutely fantastic. All the various podcasting downloads, the iTunes, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, Google Play, Stitcher, Luminary, for all the Luminary fans out there. And of course, like I said, the website, warroom.org.
Yeah, we're very grateful for everybody. The podcast is absolutely soaring right now. We're already today on, I think, about 25,000 downloads on the day, which is big, and we're still halfway through the first show of the day, which is pretty phenomenal. So we're really grateful to the people that go up there, rate it, review it, share it with friends. Put an email together, say, hey guys, have you listened to this? Text your friends, text your family. We're very, very grateful for it, and we're so grateful that we get to spread the message of the truth out there. When we come back, we've got a lurker in the War Room right now. Congressman Matt Gaetz is lurking in the War Room. He's going to be joining us for the next one. Oh, here he comes, Congressman Matt Gaetz. Jason Miller, Raheem Kassam, Steve Bannon up in New York on assignment. We'll have his interview on CNBC up at warroom.org immediately after the show. Stay tuned. Matt Gaetz, Jason Miller will be right back.
War Room. Impeachment. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back. War Room Impeachment, Wednesday, January 15, the year of our Lord 2020. Stephen K. Bannon up in New York on assignment. I'm Raheem Kassam, joined in the historic Breitbart Embassy by Jason Miller. And now, the fire breather of all fire breathers, Congressman Matt Gaetz. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us here on War Room Impeachment. I think, by the way, every time Congressman Gaetz is on, we get another like 20-30% download bump on the podcast. So we're very grateful.
Congrats on 1 million downloads. That's amazing.
Thank you. I'm still waiting for my pay rise, honestly.
You guys get paid?
Well,
paid. Jason, over to you.
yeah, Congressman, thanks again for coming in. You've been one of the strategists. When you went downstairs into the Star Chamber and blew this thing up, that's when we had the turning point in this whole impeachment witch hunt. I want to get right into the state of play. Mitch McConnell said that Tuesday is when we're going to start this actual impeachment trial over in the Senate. All the talk, when it's not about Lev Parnas and this Hyde loser, everything is about witnesses, witness exchange program. What do you expect Tuesday to look like? And if someone were to put a gun to your head right now and say, do you think that we're going to get Hunter Biden or Joe Biden hauled in? I want to get your just honest to God answer.
I feel very strong about the facts. I think that this latest cache of documents only reinforces President Trump's legitimate concern that there are not a lot of white hats in the Ukraine, that there's a lot of corruption there going on, people kind of sliding in and out of these roles with the government, and asking questions seems to be the prudent thing for the American taxpayer. When it comes to the procedural state of play in the United States Senate, I can't say I feel great. You know, I have long been preaching the gospel that a fast dismissal was preferable, because the longer that this thing soaks over the United States Senate, the less comfortable I feel, because I don't know that we have, you know, the same fire, the same fervor, the same just like core belief in the innocence of the president with as large a number of people in the United States Senate as we had in the House. You know, I think in the House we were unified, we were fired up. You saw each and every member, you know, going down and giving speeches about their commitment to the president, their belief that this wasn't about Ukraine, this was about the failed Russia hoax. And I haven't really seen that out of the Senate. Have you?
No, and in fact, what we have seen is from Senator John Cornyn, senior senator from Texas, coming out deriding the circus-like environment from over on the House side, and in fact saying that he didn't want to infect the Senate with any of those dirty House germs or something of that. I mean, just
Matt
being
Gaetz
blunt.
has cooties was basically was the basic point.
Congressman, what the hell is that all about? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. We were absolutely getting our you-know-what kicked in, and then you guys go downstairs in the Star Chamber, blow this up, start taking it to the Dems, you start fighting back, defending President Trump, giving him some real allies and some advocates, and now it sounds like a bunch of guys in the Senate want to go soft. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, look, nobody wants a circus-like environment, but if the Democrats come out under the big tent with their top hats on, it sure would be nice to have somebody that knows how to ride an elephant. You know what I mean? And I am concerned that the Democrats are going to continue to try to make this a circus. And you even see that with this release of additional documents and these crazy stories about these bizarre figures in the Ukraine. It is all about trying to smear the president. And so we have to be able to fight fire with fire. We have to be able to call out the BS when we see it. I won't say that the way I really would, because I've already gotten one FCC fine for you guys for my language on this show.
Don't worry, the bill goes to John Fredericks, not us.
Oh, well, he was very upset with me during the break last time. So, but it is BS, and I think that we have to meet that with sincerity. And if Senator Cornyn thinks that's a circus-like environment, we're not driving, right? The Democrats were driving, but I think we won. If you look at when the polling really inverted on this thing against impeachment, it was when we had the House Judiciary Committee hearings, and I went after those professors and pointed them out for the partisans, for the Trump haters that they are, when we had that ridiculous like bring your donor to work day with the Democrat staff. And I think that walking through that is going to be important as this rolls to the Senate. If the strategy in the Senate is to tweeze through every fact in the Ukraine, I think that this is going to get very complicated and just very weird very quick. I think you have to show this as the modern incarnation of the resistance against our transformational president.
You guys are being very, very, very polite about this. I think it's not even that you don't have. It's not even that you're at zero level on this stuff. They're now talking about between 3 and even 10 senators who might be, flippable on this. This is an embarrassment, and what they're doing, Matt, if you don't mind me saying, Congressman, is they're disrespecting disrespecting you by doing this. They are so ready and willing to be prim and proper as far as the other side is concerned, but they won't show that same respect to their so-called own colleagues, right? And this is the problem with the Romney types. This is the problem with these guys who we have known for a very long time are a problem on our side. We have to take a quick break.
Do you think Pelosi held back the articles to smoke out that caucus of Republicans?
Absolutely. And I think that's exact. Do you think that?
Well, I asked the question first, Raheem.
Yeah, well, I gave an answer.
Well,
Where's
the answer
yours?
is yes. Come on, Nancy. Of course they held this up to go and try
This
to
is what
gin
Steve
this
K.
up.
Bannon refers to as the master strategist, right? Nancy Pelosi holding on to the articles, smoking out the so-called moderates. They're not moderates, they're leftists. Smoking out the leftists within the Republican Party. And frankly, the Lev Parnas stuff with the coterie of losers that are mentioned in his WhatsApp group messages. This is War Room Impeachment. Matt Gaetz, Jason Miller, Raheem Kassam will be right back.
Bannon, Miller, Kassam. War Room Impeachment.
On the John Fredericks Radio Network.
Welcome back to War Room Impeachment, Wednesday, January 15th, 2020. Jason Miller, Congressman Matt Gaetz, joined by me, Raheem Kassam, here in the historic Breitbart Embassy on Capitol Hill, just yards away from where the entire impeachment process is taking place. And where in about 15 minutes' time, Nancy Pelosi is due to give her presser, pushing this whole thing forward, and then a short ceremony, I believe, of them walking the articles over to the Senate later on today.
Did you guys have any guesses on the managers? Because while I think it's a bit regressive to go one by one, I think it is important, to ascertain whether or not she leans into seniority or talent, because it is not the same thing. Okay, you have some younger, more talented members, and then you've got some of the gray hairs.
Yeah.
And Nancy always has to deal with that challenge. I'll be watching to see who she picks as the managers.
Well, Jerry Nadler thinks he's in, right?
Let's hope so.
Yeah, let's hope so. And that's what we said, Congressman, before you came in. I think that means that President Trump would then be obligated to have Corey Lewandowski be part of his defense team, just to point at Jerry and be like, hey, Jerry, remember when I throttled you in that hearing?
If you want to look at the Real Clear Politics average, when support for impeachment goes into free fall is when Jerry Nadler gets a hold of the baton. And so let's pray that he is one of the leaders in that movement. And Schiff as well.
Factually accurate. Congressman, one of the reasons we wanted to have you in this morning, headline popping up, I'm looking at the local Miami CBS station this morning, E-Verify divides Florida Republican leaders. So as folks might remember, Congressman Ron DeSantis, someone who I used to work with quite a bit, congressman from up in the Ponte Vedra Beach area, now the governor of Florida, and I think he's the single highest rated governor in the entire country at the
72% approval rating for Governor Ron DeSantis in purple Florida.
Yeah, so that's obviously that's massive. I mean, that's just.
I think it's because he banned sanctuary cities. We have the toughest anti-sanctuary city laws in America. That was his number one priority last session. He got it along with environmental protection. Now in the upcoming legislative session, Governor DeSantis has just given his state of the address, and he has challenged Republicans in our state not to do the bidding of agribusiness, not to do the bidding of the hotel and motel special interest lobby, but instead to stand up for the wages of hardworking Floridians and pass E-Verify. And what is so disappointing...
Explain for folks, most of this audience is going to know E-Verify, but just explain it for folks what it is exactly he wants to do and what E-Verify is.
E-Verify is a simple system whereby your workforce can be validated as being legal to work in the country. So it's not just American citizens, it's anyone who's here under our laws for legal work. But as we know, even as President Trump is doing everything possible to raise wages and curb illegal immigration, one of the biggest downward pressure on wages for blue-collar workers is illegal labor paid under the table. And so we want to bring that all out into the light with an E-Verify system for a high-paid legal workforce. And what is shameful is that we have Republican leaders in the state Senate who have already come out in opposition to Governor DeSantis' E-Verify proposal. The Senate President, Bill Galvano, someone I know, a friend of mine, has opposed Governor DeSantis' America First E-Verify plan and is doing everything he can to undermine it and water it down. And I think that this is really a fight that America needs to pay attention to, because if we can do this in Florida, after banning sanctuary cities, if we can overlay that with an an E-Verify system. There is no state in America that should not be able to do these things. As we have seen, our movement does not always have its greatest successes within the beltway of Washington, D.C. We need to invigorate the inspiration and energy in the several states in this country. I am so glad Governor DeSantis is leading that effort, and we need to get these Republicans opposing Governor DeSantis back on the right track.
Did you say, Jason, that you had friends texting you about DeSantis for president one day? Because I have a story about that.
There's been a lot of buzz about Ron so far, and like I said, Ron and Casey they're doing a great job in Florida. And Ryan Gadersky just wrote a column in the Washington Examiner saying that Ron DeSantis might be the ideological heir to President Trump. And I tell you, I think what a lot of folks might not realize that you, Congressman Gaetz, are very close with Ron DeSantis, very much in the same way that you're close with President Trump up here. You're also very close with Governor DeSantis. I think that puts you in a very
You may not
spot.
love me, but I'm your favorite politician's favorite politician.
Hey, I'll tell you this though. I mean, if I'm going into combat with someone, you're the number one draft pick.
I remember when Governor DeSantis
guys.
was down 20 points and $20 million to a more establishment Republican, and he really ran on E-Verify. E-Verify was a galvanizing moment for Governor DeSantis's campaign, and I think that this shows the realignment that we have to have in the conservative movement, where we prioritize these bold immigration reforms.
Well, you guys are having a bromance, so I'm going to have one with myself and just talk about how 3 years ago I interviewed and had no idea, interviewed Ron DeSantis on the Breitbart radio show. And immediately, as I started looking him up and started looking at his background, I was like, oh, wow, this person is like the real deal. And then had him on the show and immediately said to my producers afterwards, that man will be president one day. If he does everything right, that man will be president one day. I'm going to find that interview just so I can say I called another shot. Jason, anything else today? Are we pivoting from E-Verify? Anything more to say on that?
Yeah, I just want to say also while we have Congressman Gaetz here, point out new Politico Morning Consult poll this morning. 71% support President Trump's decision to not strike back against Iran. Congressman, would love to get your take on that and your thoughts from the public and what you think is going to happen in the Senate.
Proof that the Trump doctrine is working, that we do not have to commit thousands of additional troops. We do not have to engage in some extended land war. We can kill the terrorists, and then we can come home. And I could tell you, I've had a number of conversations with the president, as you might imagine, since this Iran issue has come to the forefront, and he is committed to showing strength, and he understands that some generation-long war does not make America stronger. The way to make America stronger is to ensure that the dollar is the most powerful tool. So let's rebuild our economy, let's put ourselves in the strongest position, and that will make sure that these sanctions put the pressure on the Iranian regime and other oppressive regimes like in North Korea to either reform or face those consequences. And we don't, China won't be laughing at us now. I think if we'd have gotten into some extended tit for tat with Iran, China would have been hoping that would have consumed us and then limited our ability to really push back against their efforts to win the 21st century.
Congressman, we're just about to break, but I wanted to ask you this question. When you've had conversations with the president about the Iran issue, especially since your vote last week, have you had to hold the phone away from your ear like Ambassador Sondland did?
Now, listen, the president and I are good friends, and we want the same outcomes, and I still support the president 100%, and he still supports me. So friends can sometimes disagree on
I know. I was defending you. I was defending you.
You were out there fighting the Twitter wars for me, Raheem.
It's about
that is
all
a
I've been
dangerous
for.
place to be, right there, between me and the blue checkmark brigade. But you were standing in the breach.
War room impeachment. Congressman Gaetz, Jason Miller, Raheem Kassam will be right back.
Bannon, Miller, Kassam. War Room Impeachment.
On the John Fredericks Radio Network.
Welcome back, War Room Impeachment. Congressman Gaetz joining us in the studio today. And I have a very important question to ask before we get to the even more important news that broke from the would-be lawyer that will be president one day, right? According to CNN and MSNBC, the guy who appeared over 6 months, 108 times on CNN and MSNBC in 2018. They were Michael Avenatti. But I just want to ask Congressman Gaetz, did you watch the Democrat debate last night, and what did you think?
I watched every painful moment of it, and what is certain to me is that none of those people are going to beat Donald Trump. I mean, there's just no one that has a dynamic nature on that stage that that beats him. But I always love Jason's calm's perspective on those things.
Yeah, no, I said in the first block of the show that it looks like none of these Democratic candidates actually want to win the race. None of them are able to put together a clear worldview. None of them, first of all, they don't know how to contrast against each other. But none of them, if you can imagine what it's going to look like on that debate stage in the general eleation, none of them are going to be able to.
Why didn't any of them go after Biden? I kept waiting for the moment where somebody would like pull out the Kamala Harris razor blade and go at Biden's jugular. Like, do these people realize they're losing to Biden right now? They're behind. They actually have to take the fight to him.
Well, and you have Crazy Bernie and Pocahontas have to come in here for the Senate trial, so they're going to be hampered and unable to go campaign the way that they'd like to. We do have some breaking news real quick. Spotted entering Speaker Pelosi's office ahead of this 10 a.m. announcement on House impeachment managers. Shifty Schiff, Jerry Nadler, Hakeem Jeffries from New York, Jason Crow, and Val Demings from Florida.
That shows a real tip of the hat to the youth movement there. I mean, Val's a newer member, Jason's a newer member, and Hakeem is, I think, one of the Democrats' most talented members, but also a younger member. So they did not lean into the gray hairs if that's your manager team.
But
what about competency there? What do we think?
Hakeem Jeffries, like the congressman said, Hakeem Jeffries is a killer.
He's their most talented member. Look,
yeah.
Hakeem Jeffries is unquestionably the most talented member the Democrats have.
Wow.
Yeah, and he doesn't have the partisan stink in the way that Pencil-neck Schiff or Nadler do.
Tell us about Michael Avenatti.
Yes, so Michael Avenatti got arrested again. So he had this Florida.
When can that guy catch a break? That's just what I'm wondering.
So in California State Bar, they had this hearing all day asking a judge to prevent Avenatti from being able to practice law. And then at the end of it, after the guy's going through this, he gets arrested for violating the conditions of his pretrial release. And so, I mean, this guy's got New York.
Was he not allowed to be on television as a condition of his pretrial release? I mean,
so the details are scarce on this. They haven't said which exact thing that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe did he smack someone around in L.A. again, or did he, try to scam Nike for another $20 million? Which is,
wow.
I mean, it looked like one of those more like that, like
wild speculation from Jason Miller.
Avenatti Kaepernick 2024. That's what I'm saying. Okay, we got to wrap here, guys. Congressman Gaetz, we got about 10 seconds. Anything left?
Hey, just get ready for the fight here. This thing is just getting going. What inning are we in?
Yeah, I don't know. What is that?
We in the
is that a sports reference?
Are we in the 6th, 7th inning? You think, Jason?
You're
a baseball guy.
Yeah, that sounds about right. You caught me off guard on that one.
If this was a cricket test match, where would we be? Never mind. All right, we're going to go through the whole Dem debate tonight with Harlan Hill, the author of They're Not Listening: How the Elites Created Nationalist Populist Revolution. 5 p.m. War Room Impeachment. Jason Miller, Raheem Kassam, and we're very grateful, as always, the fire breather himself, Congressman Matt Gaetz, joined us today. Make sure you catch up with everything at warroom.org.